The coffee had gone cold. It sat between us on the kitchen table like a third presence. Quiet, watching, waiting. Outside, the trees stood motionless in the early morning light. Inside, the air had turned thick with something I couldn't name yet. Not dread, not sadness, not even anger, just wait. Megan folded her hands in front of her. Her fingernails were painted a soft pink, chipped on the edges. That detail sticks with me now. It was the only thing fragile about her that morning. Everything else, her posture, her tone, the way her eyes avoided mine, was rehearsed, practiced. She wasn't confused. She wasn't doubting. She had come to deliver a sentence. She needs a real father, Nick. The words hit so softly, they almost didn't register. No accusation, no edge. She said it the way someone might explain the weather. Like it wasn't up for debate. Like it had always been true, and she was just now being kind enough to inform me. I stared at her. Just stared. I thought maybe I'd misheard. Or maybe she meant something else. Something I could translate into something kinder, more human. She didn't flinch. She just went on like she was trying to explain basic math. It's not that you haven't tried. You've done a lot. But it's not the same. It'll never be the same. Biology matters. I looked past her. Not at her, not anymore. My eyes went to the fridge behind her. It was cluttered with years of effort. A rainbow drawing from when her daughter was 6. A spelling test I helped her study for, laminated with pride. A calendar with her dentist appointment marked in red, the one I took off work early for. A photo from her middle school graduation where I stood behind her, smiling like I belonged. That fridge had always made me feel like part of the story. But in that moment, it looked like a museum of someone else's child. I opened my mouth, closed it again. There was nothing to say that wouldn't cheapen the silence. She kept talking. I remember that. I remember her saying things like, "You're important in your own way," and "It doesn't erase what you've done." Lies really. Soft lies, sewn together like gauze, meant to bandage the wound she was cutting into me. She just needs someone who understands her, really understands her. And that's not something you can fake. Nick, that's the part one remember most. That's not something you can fake. It wasn't anger I felt. It wasn't even betrayal. It was something quieter, like watching your own shadow detach itself and walk away. All the nights I stayed up with her daughter while Megan slept. The science fair project I built from scratch after she forgot the deadline. The birthday parties I paid for. The counseling sessions I drove her to when Megan was too busy. The way I taught her to tie her shoes. The way I kept her secrets when she asked me not to tell her mother. I was there when she got her period for the first time. I was there when she had her first panic attack. I held her hand in the emergency room when she sprained her ankle at soccer practice. I read bedtime stories until my throat went raw. I worked double shifts when Megan's ex stopped sending child support. But I wasn't blood, so none of it mattered. 16 years. 16 years of trying to earn a title that could be erased in one breath. A title I never insisted on, but quietly hoped would grow between us. Like ivy, slow, deliberate, alive. Now Megan was cutting the vines with garden shears, smiling like she was doing me a favor. She doesn't connect with you the way a girl connects with her real dad. You know? No, I didn't know. Because there had never been a real dad in the picture. Just a name mentioned now and then. A man who sent birthday cards without return addresses. A ghost that called twice a year and forgot her age. And yet here we were, that man's absence now being held up as more sacred, more legitimate, than my presence. That morning, Megan rewrote the rules. All the definitions I'd lived by, they no longer applied. I wasn't a father. I was just a man who had been around. I just think, maybe it's time we stopped pretending, she said, looking into her mug like she expected it to respond. Stopped pretending. That's what it had all been to her. Then, pretend. A dress rehearsal for the role I would never be allowed to actually play. I had stood in for someone else, and now the real actor was ready to return, so I was being quietly ushered off stage. I remember the hum of the refrigerator. The slight creak in the wood beneath my chair. My own breathing, slow, careful, like I was afraid of making the wrong sound and shattering something delicate. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. There's a kind of pain that's too deep for drama. It doesn't explode, it just settles. Megan looked up at me then, as if expecting a response. Maybe she thought I'd be grateful, that I'd thank her for her honesty, that I'd nod and say, "Of course, you're right, 16 years was just a warm-up." Instead, I nodded once, just once. And in that gesture, I let something go. Or maybe it let go of me. There was no fight, because a fight would have implied I still believed I had a stake in this family, that I thought this was a misunderstanding, that if I just said the right thing, she'd realize the mistake and take the words back. But Megan wasn't confused. She was certain, and that certainty was the sharpest knife of all. I stood from the table. My chair scraped quietly across the floor. She didn't stop me. I walked into the hallway, past the framed photo of all three of us from last Christmas, the one where I wore the ugly sweater she picked out, past the bookshelf that held the bedtime stories I used to read aloud, past the door to her daughter's room, still covered in stickers and glitter glue. I paused there, just for a second. I remembered the night she had a nightmare and crawled into my lap, sobbing. The time she whispered, "You make me feel safe." Those words had felt permanent once. Now I saw them for what they were, moments. Fleeting, small, unanchored to anything that could survive a sentence like the one I had just heard. I went into the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't look like a man who had just lost something. I looked like a man who had been told he never had it to begin with. 16 years. And all it took to wipe them away was a calm voice and a cup of cold coffee. Was I wrong to believe that love could be built? That a bond could be formed not in a hospital room with a newborn, but across years of dinners and scraped knees and whispered secrets? Was I naive to think presence could matter more than biology? Megan had answered all of that without blinking. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just spoke the truth she had always believed but never said out loud, until that morning. She needed a real father for her daughter. And by real, she meant someone who had contributed sperm. Not sweat, not time, not years of silent endurance. Just blood. I went back to the kitchen. Megan hadn't moved. The coffee still sat between us, untouched. The morning had turned to late morning. Sunlight crept further across the floor. She looked up, as if unsure whether I had left for good or just to cool off. I sat down again, not because I had something to say, but because I wanted to see how far she would go. "Is that what you really believe?" I asked. She hesitated. Not long, just enough to confirm everything. "I think it's what she needs." I nodded again. Then I asked the only question that mattered. "Does that mean I'm no longer expected to act like her father?" This time she didn't hesitate at all. "I think it would be better, yes. Better. Better than what? The man who kept the lights on. The man who held her child while she collapsed from exhaustion. The man who put his own dreams on hold so a little girl could have hers." But I didn't ask, because I already knew the answer. I stood again, this time for real. No anger, no bitterness. Just a quiet understanding, the kind that doesn't announce itself but changes everything. She watched me go. Not once did she call my name. I didn't leave the house right away. That would have been too easy, too dramatic. And I wasn't interested in a scene. I'd spent 16 years avoiding drama, holding my tongue while others screamed, staying steady so the family didn't splinter under its own weight. No, I stayed. For one more day. She thought she'd broken something in me that morning. She had, but not in the way she expected. It wasn't a wound. It was a severing. Clean. Permanent. Like a limb I'd carried long past the point of usefulness. I slept on the couch that night. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. I didn't belong in the bed of a woman who saw me as an extra. A convenience. I watched the ceiling. Listened to the silence of a house I no longer called mine. Every creak of the wood, every hum of the refrigerator, every familiar sound felt foreign now, like I was squatting in someone else's life. By morning, I had a list in my head. It started with the joint account. I sat at the desk in the study, the The one I built myself from reclaimed wood during that first year, back when I still believed I was constructing something permanent, and opened the laptop. The numbers stared back at me, silent witnesses to years of sacrifice. The account bore both our names. But the deposits, those were mine. Every tuition payment, every summer camp fee, every birthday party, every school trip, every orthodontist visit. My name on every transfer, every receipt. I had kept the machine running, oiled and humming, so Megan could believe in ease. So her daughter could believe in miracles. I opened the bank's admin page, unlinked the auto payments first. The phone buzzed with confirmation texts. Then I closed the account, split the remaining balance, half to her, half to me. Fair, merciful, even. I didn't drain it. I didn't leave her with nothing. I could have. Then I pulled out the file, the one labeled Custody Biodad. I had kept it out of a sense of preparedness, not trust. He'd been a ghost for years, a phantom name on the birth certificate. The man who vanished when the responsibility got too loud. But his information was still here: email, phone, last known address. I stared at it for a long time, and then I dialed. His voice hadn't changed. Still smooth, still just amused enough to sound like life never touched him too hard. Hello, is this Andrew? A pause. Yeah. Who's this? This is Nick. A longer pause. Then the sound of recognition blooming into discomfort. Oh, Megan's husband. Not anymore. Silence. I'm calling about your daughter. His tone tightened. Is she okay? She's fine. But you need to start handling her expenses. Tuition, rent, all of it. A scoff. Excuse me? You heard me. Wait, what the hell are you talking about? I haven't. Megan never. She says she wants her daughter to have a real father. That's you, apparently. He started to respond, some blend of indignation and confusion, but I cut him off. I've paid every bill for 16 years. School, food, doctors, everything. I treated her like mine. She called me dad once. But your name, that's what's on the forms. Isn't it? That's what matters, right? Biology. You can't just. I'm not asking. I'm informing. You wanted the title. You can have the job. Look, I didn't ask for this. But you were given it, weren't you? You're the father. That's what Megan believes now. So I'm stepping aside. It's your turn. He went quiet then. The kind of silence men carry when they've run out of excuses. When the past finally calls the debt. I hung up before he could answer. No more debates. No more negotiations. Just action. By noon, I'd rewritten every account. Her daughter's name removed from the health insurance. The rent for her off-campus apartment redirected. The fuel card disabled. The school login credentials changed. All communications were now set to go directly to Megan or Andrew. I didn't leave a mess. I handed it back clean. By the time Megan returned from work, everything had been realigned. She stepped into the kitchen, dropped her purse on the counter, and frowned. You're home early. I made some changes, I said. She didn't ask what kind. She knew. Somewhere deep in her, she knew what she'd started. Still, she played dumb. Changes. I closed the joint account, split it down the middle. She blinked. Why would you do that? You said I wasn't her real father. So I stopped pretending. Something flickered behind her eyes. Not regret. Not shock. Just the dawning horror of consequences. I went on. I called Andrew. Told him to start contributing. He said he couldn't. I told him that's not my problem anymore. She stepped closer, voice suddenly lower. Nick, wait. Don't be impulsive. We were just talking. I didn't mean. You meant every word. You spoke calmly, clearly. You believed it. She's a teenager. She's confused. She says things. You said it. Not her. You're the one who decided blood mattered more than years. That's your line. I'm just following it. A beat of silence. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. She looked down at her hands. Same chipped pink nail polish. Suddenly, they seemed small. I picked up my keys. She'll need a new insurance provider. Probably a new guarantor for school. That's up to you now. Or him? You're just going to walk away? She asked, voice breaking. I already did. This morning. At the kitchen table. I walked to the door. She followed, bare feet soft against the tile. She'll be devastated, Megan said. She'll be fine, I replied. She has a real father now. I didn't look back. Not then. Not when I stepped out the door. Not when it closed behind me. Not when I sat in the truck and let the engine idle while I caught my breath. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like breathing after years underwater. Let the man who vanished return. Let the man whose name holds so much power handle the weight of it. Let Megan see what real fatherhood looks like in practice, not theory. I had played the role. Now I was handing over the script. Let them see if biology can write checks. He arrived less than 24 hours later. Not with bags. Not with plans. Just a grin and a car that coughed when it turned into the driveway. I was gone by then, of course. I'd left the house with a bag of clothes and a silence that didn't need punctuation. I stayed in a rental on the edge of town. Plain walls, dusty windows, a view of a dead lawn. Felt like exile. It also felt like freedom. But I drove past the house that evening. Just once. Just to see. And there he was. Andrew. Her real father. Wearing a wrinkled polo. Leaning against the hood of his aging sedan. Arms folded like he was early for a casual job interview. She stood on the porch watching him. Not smiling. Not angry. Just watching. The kind of stare you give a reality that doesn't match the picture you sold yourself. Her daughter wasn't there. Maybe upstairs. Maybe listening. Maybe wondering why the man who forgot birthdays was suddenly on the front lawn like he belonged there. I didn't stop the car. I kept driving. But I saw enough. He didn't carry luggage. He carried nothing. Not even an apology. And she, Megan, didn't rush to hug him. She didn't wave like she used to when I came home late. Exhausted, with takeout in my hands and apologies on my lips. She didn't glow. Because reality was already setting in. She had summoned the ghost. And the ghost had shown up as a man. Incomplete, uncomfortable, ill-equipped. By the next morning, I started getting the texts. From Megan. Can we talk? Please, Nick. Just a few minutes. You're being unfair. I ignored them. She'd spoken her truth at the table. My silence now was not cruelty, it was agreement. Then came the voicemail. Nick, he's here. He's trying, I think. But it's not going the way I thought. She barely speaks to him. He's not connecting. He's not you. That last sentence wasn't a compliment. It was a confession. Still, I didn't reply. Let her sit with it. That afternoon I got a call. Unknown number. I picked up. It was him. Andrew. I don't think this is gonna work, he said without preamble. Then leave, I answered. You really just walked out, huh? I didn't walk out. I handed it over. He laughed, dry and nervous. She thought I'd move in. She thought a lot of things. She's drowning, man. So swim. He didn't like that. You really just dropped it all on her? No, I said. She dropped it all on herself. I just stopped catching it. He started to say something else, then hung up. A man used to exits. By nightfall, Megan sent a longer message. Nick, please. She's crying. She won't talk to him. He tried to take her to lunch and she said no. She locked herself in her room. He doesn't know how to talk to her. He forgot she's vegetarian. He bought a burger. She screamed. I don't know what to do. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I did nothing. Because it wasn't mine anymore. The next morning, another voicemail. She asked where you were. She said she misses you. She wants to know if you're mad. I told her you just needed space, but she doesn't believe me. She thinks she did something wrong. She did. She believed in the lie her mother sold her, that a father is only as real as his DNA. Now she was watching that lie fall apart in real time. I made breakfast in silence. Ate alone. Washed the plate. Sat by the window. I didn't feel victorious. There was no victory in being right about failure. There was only the cold satisfaction of confirmation. By day 3, the cracks were loud. Neighbors noticed. Megan's voice raised in the driveway. Andrew leaving in a huff. Her daughter yelling something from the porch. Something I couldn't make out before slamming the door. The family she wanted, the one she thought she was owed, was crumbling under its own fiction. I didn't watch from the street again. I didn't need to. The collapse had begun. On day 5, I received a text from the girl herself. "Hi. I don't know if I'm allowed to text you. Mom says you're mad. Are you mad?" I stared at it. The same fingers that once built Lego castles with mine now tapped out questions into a phone. Questions that didn't belong to a child anymore. They belonged to someone on the edge of understanding. "I'm not mad," I wrote back. "I'm gone." She didn't reply for an hour. Then, "I didn't mean it. Whatever I did. I didn't mean it." I didn't answer. Not because I didn't want to, but because it wasn't time yet. Not for apologies born from confusion. Not for guilt blooming too late. Let the truth settle first. Let her see what real looked like. By day 7, Andrew left. Just packed up and drove off. Megan tried to stop him. Neighbors saw. There was yelling. Hands thrown up in the air. A suitcase that wouldn't close. Car that wouldn't start at first. Eventually, it did. And then he was gone again. Like he always had been. She called me that night. I didn't answer. She called again. Then left a message. "Nick. He's gone. She's a mess. I'm a mess. This house feels wrong without you. I don't know what to do. Please. We need you." I played it twice. Not because I needed to hear the pain, but because I wanted to remember how fast certainty turns to begging when the weight shifts. I went to bed early. Slept well. The next morning, another message, this time whispered. "Broken. She asked if you were coming back." I didn't know what to say. I told her maybe. I lied. "I'm sorry." That was the first time I heard Megan say those words in 16 years. Not for the silence. Not for the indifference. Not for the moments when she let her daughter mock me behind closed doors and did nothing to stop it. But now, when the house was quieter than it had ever been, now she was sorry. I didn't reply, because apologies made under collapse are often prayers, not changes. That night, another text from her daughter. "He left. He just left. Didn't even say goodbye." "I know," I answered. "I don't want him. I want you." I didn't respond to that one, because it wasn't time to want me. It was time to understand what I had been. Let the silence teach that. Let the absence speak louder than any word I could offer. Let the house echo. Let the title Real Father rot under its own weight. Let her mother explain what love without labor looks like. I didn't go back. Not that week. Not the next. Not when Megan texted. Not when her daughter left another voicemail, whispering my name like it might summon forgiveness. The house still stood, but I no longer recognized it. They had built their lives on my presence. Their schedules, their comfort, their version of family. All of it quietly tethered to the man who showed up, paid the bills, answered the phone, remembered the dates. Me. And I had become a background hum they forgot to hear, until it stopped. This wasn't revenge. I wasn't out to hurt them. I wasn't teaching a lesson. I was simply done. Megan asked for clarity, even if she didn't know that's what she meant. So I gave it to her. I lived quietly now. A one-bedroom apartment above a bakery. Mornings smelled like yeast and coffee. The windows overlooked a cracked alley. No picket fence. No porch lights left on for someone coming home late. But it was mine. Every object in that apartment had a place. Every sound, every silence belonged to me. No one rolled their eyes when I spoke. No one pretended not to hear me until their mother repeated my words. No one said I wasn't real. And no one called me dad. That part still ached. But I'd rather ache alone than carry a title only to be reminded it wasn't mine the moment I needed it to mean something. About 3 weeks after he left, Megan showed up. I saw her car first, parked half on the curb. She sat in the driver's seat for 10 minutes before she worked up the courage to get out. She didn't knock right away. She stood outside the door like she didn't recognize it. Then one knock. Soft, careful. I opened it. Not surprised. She looked thinner. Not from diet. From exhaustion. Her eyes were tired. Makeup could only hide so much. "Hi," she said. Hi. A beat of silence passed. Can I come in? I stepped aside. Let her in. Let her see the life I was building now. Sparse furniture. Quiet corners. A place that didn't apologize for not being more. She stood near the kitchen table, touched the back of one chair, then turned to me. She misses you. I know. She asks about you every day. I figured. I've told her you needed space, that you're thinking. I'm not thinking, Megan. I'm living. She swallowed. I didn't know what I was saying that day. At the table. You did. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. But it did sound that way. She looked down. I thought if she had a connection to him, maybe it would make something easier. For who? Her? Or you? That made her flinch. I sat at the table. She followed, hesitating before lowering herself into the chair across from me. She said something last night, Megan whispered. She said, Nick made me feel safe. Andrew just made me feel watched. I didn't answer. I think I broke something, she said. You didn't break it. You revealed it. She blinked. What do you mean? You didn't destroy anything that wasn't already cracked. You just said the words that gave shape to the fracture. She breathed in, held it, let it out slowly. I should have defended you. I should have told her what you were, who you were, to her, to me. Why didn't you? Her voice was quieter than I'd ever heard it. Because I was afraid she'd choose him anyway, that no matter what I said, some part of her would always want him more. Because he's blood. And now, she looked me in the eyes. Now I know that blood doesn't raise children. Presence does. I nodded. Took you long enough. Tears welled, but she blinked them back. She wants to talk to you, not to come live with you or anything. Just to talk. I don't know if I'm ready for that. She said you might say that. She said, I deserve that. That nearly broke me. Nearly. But I had learned not to let the heart steer anymore. Not when it had already driven me off the edge once. I don't know who I am to her now, I said. If I'm anything. She still calls you Dad. Just not out loud. I stood, walked to the sink, filled a glass with water, drank slowly. I gave you both everything, I said without turning around. Not just money, time, energy, loyalty. I carried you both through things you don't even know I protected you from. And the one time I needed to be seen. Not rewarded, just seen. You told me I wasn't real. I know. Do you? Yes, she said. And I know I don't get to ask you for anything. But I'll ask anyway. Talk to her. Even if it's just once. She needs to say the things she couldn't say that night. I turned. Looked at her. What about you? I've said enough. And too little. I sat again. Nodded once. She can call tomorrow. Megan stood, her hands trembling just enough to give her away. Thank you, she said. I walked her to the door. Nick, she said before leaving. If I had to do it again, you'd still believe in blood, I said. No, she whispered. I'd believe in what was already here. She left. That night, I sat alone in the dark, phone in hand, waiting, wondering. The call came the next day. Her voice was soft, unsure, but it was hers. Hi, she said. Hi. And for the first time in weeks, the silence didn't feel like punishment. Felt like pause. I didn't forgive her that day. I didn't forget what was said. But I listened. Because I had spent 16 years loving someone who didn't ask to be caught in the middle. I let her speak. I let her cry. I let her ask. Then I ended the call before the hope could bloom too wide. Clarity isn't warmth. It isn't peace. It's just the cold truth of what remains when the illusion fades. Megan hasn't called again. Her daughter texts sometimes. Updates, small moments, memories she wants to share. I read them all. I reply to some. I won't go back. Not to the house. Not to the role. Not to the man who bled to be accepted and was discarded when convenience called. But I don't hate them. I just see them now, clearly. And I see myself. Not as a father. Not as a husband. But as a man who gave everything and finally learned when to stop. So I'll end this with a question. Was I wrong to leave when the cost of staying became too high? Was I cruel to demand that love come with recognition? Or was I just the first one in the house to finally tell the truth? You tell me, what would you have done?